Go ahead, KJ.
Yeah, Tom, after being able to look back on Sunday, what do you think you learned most from your team overall from that duel?
I think you got to be optimistic, but you also got to be realistic. We got to get a lot better. I've said that's several times this year. It's a common theme. I'm not one to really look at mat time as we got to have more mat time and we'll be better and we'll be ready when it's time to go. I'm really not of that mindset. However, there's been some pretty extreme situations where we've missed a lot of mat time. So you got to keep it all in perspective. You got to communicate the right way to our guys. I don't know. I'm not going to, sit here and pretend like I know exactly where we need to, push buttons at. I know that we got to get better. And I know that our guys are up for it. They're up for that challenge.
Cody?
Regarding guys like Colin, Abe, and Warner, those are guys you mentioned just need to finish shots. When it comes to working on that, is that a technique thing in the room? Is that getting reps? Where do you go to help them with that?
I think it's definitely that. It's in the room. It's reps. I think it's mentality. I think it's a little bit of getting rid of maybe once I'm in, that's when it gets easier mentality. You got to get rid of that mentality because once you're in on the leg, that's when the work starts. The closer you get to the finish, the harder the task becomes. And so you got to be so aware and so in tune. And it's almost like you're predicting where that opponent's going to be going. And so you're half a step ahead of him. And, certainly fast finishes favor us. So I think we can pick up, a couple different things there on what I just said, a couple different things where, I think you're right about the repetitions. I think it's got to be faster, but I also think that, just because you get in on the ground, you're in on the ground and then you come to your feet, that doesn't mean that guy's falling down. And we got to give ourselves more opportunities earlier, and you can't get yourself boxed into a corner at the end of periods or end of matches where you're rushing things. And I'm not even sure that Warner had to rush, his situation at the end of the match there. He was in 3 times deep, didn't really get a sniff at him. He was in there 3 times deep in the last minute of the match. I think that last shot, especially a little bit of patience would have paid off. And so I just said patience and you got to finish faster. But I mean, you can have explosion with patience and, being able to predict where your opponent's going, what he's trying to do.
Kevin?
One thing I wanted to ask about was just Kobe Siebrecht. He's been so impressive, just from jumping into the lineup for you guys at 157. This is not to imply that not everybody in your lineup is competing weekly for their spot in the lineup, but how much of his impressive showing thus far do you feel is because he's trying to prove something to you and the coaching staff?
Well, I know that that's been conversation amongst fans and message boards or whatever. I think he's definitely asserted himself, solidified himself. But I just keep telling him, hey, keep it going. Just keep doing what you're doing. Keep it going. And I think he's in a good place. I don't think that, he's one that's going to let this, just all of a sudden, oh, it's my spot and I can relax. I don't think he's that kind of competitor. But it has been internal competition. There has been an internal competition there. He's done well with it.
Ross?
Hey, Tom, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about how, Chattanooga, the team that your staff has a little bit of history with, but how they ended up on the schedule for you guys.
Well, we got them to come here last year. We told them we'd do a return trip. And so here we are, we're doing a return trip. Familiar with Coach Rochelle down there. Terry Brand's very familiar with that program. I mean, he has a lot of relationships there from his former team that he coached, and then also, you know, some of those supporters that were down there with him. So it's good. The World Cup was there. Our training camps for Atlanta were there. A lot of familiarity for me as well.
KJ,
What's it been like working with Real Woods? You know, since he's gotten there and now part of the team, and how is he really, you know, in a short amount of time, essentially, really kind of meshed and become one of the guys?
You know, he's one of those guys that is like, I mean, you ask him like, "Hey, how you doing?" He looks at you like, "Why are you asking me that?" Of course I'm doing fine. And it's refreshing because, you know, this is something in whatever, I mean, you can say for whatever reason, but, you know, an individual sport, elite level athletics, there's drama anyway. You know, there's uptight people. When the higher level you go, the more uptight sometimes they get. And he's pretty in control of his situation. Pretty cool cat. Knows he's got to get better. He's humble that way. He works to get better. He's hardworking. He's very intellectual. And that's not, you know, to say that he's smart in school, because everybody knows that story, but he's very intellectual in the sport of wrestling and how he approaches getting better, analyzing, watching, talking, listening, all those things.
Darren,
Coach, you've really stressed, you know, the fact about getting better. Against Chattanooga, is there anything specific that you would want to see where you could measure that improvement? Like, for example, at 74, it looks like Nelson has what could be the marquee match. Or just what sort of things are you looking for in this duel?
Well, when you have opportunities, go out there and, you know, put the hammer on it. And you know, domination is an important quality and ingredient in the best competitors. And that's what we look for. You know, we have lineup issues at 33. You know, I don't know what we're going to do there yet. Shriver or Ibarra. You know, we're still waiting on Teskey to get back in there. So, you know, we got that going on. We just have to do what you do in December. You got to be patient, and you got to have the right mindset with patience and optimism. But don't be too patient.
Cody,
I know you guys are in the thick of the college season. You got a duel coming up this weekend, but the World Cup being in Coralville, men's and women's freestyle both being in action. Any thoughts on just the cool opportunity to bring high level freestyle, you know, back to Iowa City, Coralville area? Great.
Wrestletown USA, Wrestling Town USA, Iowa City, Iowa, Iowa City, Coralville, Josh Schamberger, UWW, USA Wrestling. The world's coming to Coralville. You said it. You said it best. It's international wrestling. It's the highest level. It's men and women in the same arena. First time that's ever happened for the World Cup. That's a big deal. And that doesn't happen by just, you know, shrugging at it. It happens with leadership and forethought and months of planning and trips overseas to meet with UWW. I know Shammy and Luke Eustace have been very, very busy and working hard to make this thing go, and not just make it go, but make it go at a high level. I mean, Iran's here. I mean, that's awesome. That's awesome. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? So a lot of great things. We'll be there Sunday. You know, we'll be in Chattanooga on Saturday, and then we'll be in that arena on Sunday.
Is there a opportunity here for, I know when Iowa announced the women's program, everybody very excited just about the continued growth of girls and women's wrestling in the US, but to have the Women's World Cup here, there an opportunity just to continue this seemingly endless ongoing movement for girls and women's wrestling, especially here in Iowa?
Yeah, and I don't know if I look. Yeah, I mean, absolutely, I agree with that, but I would add a little bit more to that too. I mean, Terry Steiner is the head women's freestyle coach at USA Wrestling. He's an Iowa Hawkeye alum, and he had a great career here. I mean, you have Bill Zadig, men's freestyle coach. He was a Hawkeye. He had a great career here. Wrestling's important here. Josh Schamberger loves wrestling. That's not being around the bush. And he's fostered relationships with UWW and USA Wrestling. And he's a hard worker. I mean, Josh Schamberger is a hard worker to make things happen. So, I don't know if it's something that is, like an ongoing, whatever, natural, keep telling the story of the growth of women's wrestling, but it is the first time, and it is the highest level of wrestling, and it is in Iowa City, Coralville area. So, and that happens because of a lot of energy from a lot of people, but not really a lot of energy from not very many people. Because without concerted, focused energy from one or two or three people, this does not happen. The balls get dropped quick when you hesitate, and Josh Schamberger does not hesitate. I give him a lot of credit.
Anything else for Coach?
Hey, thanks. Have a good Christmas.